In Rome, a thief named Enzo flees from the police, taking a gold watch with him. After an intense chase, he hides in an old port, but when the officers arrive, Enzo is forced to jump into the Tiber River and wait for them to leave. Shortly after, the officers decide to search elsewhere, and Enzo takes the chance to get out of the water. However, he ends up stepping on several barrels of radioactive material, his body becoming completely covered in a dark liquid. Even so, the thief flees back home, but as soon as he arrives, he begins to feel ill and runs to the bathroom. Enzo begins to expel the same dark liquid, and when he tries to sleep, he feels feverish and experiences severe discomfort throughout his body. After a difficult night, Enzo wakes up and seems to be feeling better. He then takes the stolen watch and goes to look for a guy named Sergio, who works for the crime boss, Fabio, known as the Gypsy. At that moment, Sergio attends a meeting between Fabio and the rest of the group, including his younger brother, Vincenzo. Since his father's perished, Fabio has inherited the family business, but his henchmen do not respect him and even question his authority. To make matters worse, one of his men has just brought him a cell phone requested by Fabio, but it is white. Fabio had ordered them to buy a black cell phone, and to vent his anger, he begins to beat his henchman with the cell phone until he eliminates him. After the meeting, Sergio goes to meet Enzo, who offers him the gold watch in exchange for 100 euros. After receiving the money, Enzo decides to return home, but begins to feel ill again, coughing incessantly. Sergio asks if he is okay and invites him to his house to offer him a new job. Inside, Sergio goes to get the equipment, and seconds later, his daughter, Alessia, enters the house, holding a portable DVD player. When she sees Enzo, the girl starts talking nonsense, and Sergio tells him to ignore his daughter, as she has mental health issues. The two then hit the road and arrive at an airstrip, where they pick up two brothers who have been hired as mules. Inside their stomachs are shipments of narcotics, and Enzo's job is to help them expel the merchandise using laxatives. The group then heads to an abandoned building and climbs to the 9th floor, as it is the only one with a bathroom. However, once there, one of the brothers begins to suffer from an overdose, as the container holding the narcotics has leaked. Tragically, the man perishes, but Sergio doesn't care and says that the only solution is to remove the remaining merchandise directly from his stomach. His brother is against the idea, but Sergio hands him the glass with the laxative and tells him to drink it all, or he will suffer the consequences. After handing him the glass, Sergio answers a phone call, but the victim's brother throws the laxative in his face and takes his gun. Not satisfied, he shoots Sergio, who, before perishing, begins to bang the guy's head against a column. Before perishing, the brother fires the gun at Enzo, the impact pushing him out of the building and causing him to fall from the 9th floor. That seems to be the end, but somehow, Enzo wakes up minutes later, alive, as if nothing had happened. Frightened, he runs back to his apartment, but as soon as he arrives, he finds Alessia waiting for him in the hallway. She asks where her father is, but he ignores her, saying he knows nothing about it. Upon entering his home, Enzo takes a look at his shoulder and, despite the gunshot wound, feels no pain. Confused, he goes to the living room, but outside, Alessia continues to bang on the door, demanding to know where her father is. Losing his patience, Enzo tells her to be quiet and punches the door, but his strength causes his hand to go through the wood. Alessia is frightened and runs away, but Enzo is surprised by his strength and decides to test it once more. In addition to being able to push a cabinet without difficulty, he picks up the heater's pipe and manages to bend it as if it were made of paper. With this super strength, Enzo decides to do more tests, but this time, he goes to an ATM. With his face covered by a mask and hood, he rips the ATM off the wall and takes it home, removing all the money inside. The next day, he uses some of the money to buy medicine, but when he removes the bandage from his shoulder, he realizes that his injury has disappeared. While he tries to understand more about his new powers, elsewhere, the gypsy is informed that Sergio is lifeless and the cargo has disappeared. The gangster then goes to his house in search of the merchandise, but finds only Alessia and begins to interrogate her. However, the girl has no idea where her father is, and the gangsters persist in their interrogation until Enzo hears everything and goes to see what happened. He realizes that Alessia is in danger, but pretends not to know her and leaves the apartment. Gypsy continues to interrogate her and orders his men to search the entire apartment. However, when one of the henchmen touches the portable DVD player, Alessia becomes enraged and attacks the gangster's face with her nails. Furious, he grabs her by the arms and threatens to cut her face with a cleaver, but suddenly, a mysterious figure breaks through the window of the house. Disguised with his hood and mask, Enzo begins to beat up the henchmen, who try to fight back, but their blows are useless. Seeing his men being easily defeated, Gypsy grabs Alessia and orders the masked man to let them go, or he will cut the girl's throat. Enzo obeys and all the henchmen leave the house, but Alessia tries to resist and kicks Gypsy, knocking him to the ground. The masked man tries to grab the cleaver, but the gangster is faster and uses the blade to cut Enzo's foot, fleeing immediately afterwards. Despite his injury, Enzo gets up and Alessia mistakes him for Hiroshi Shiba, the hero of her favorite anime, Geek Robot. Enzo knows it's not safe to leave the girl there, so he takes her to hide in his apartment, since the gypsy doesn't know his true identity. As soon as the two enter the house, Enzo takes a look at his foot and realizes that his toe has been cut off by the cleaver. He believes that, just like his shoulder, his foot will also regenerate, so he sticks the severed piece back on his foot using duct tape. After that, he tells Alessia to go to sleep in the bed and lies down on the sofa, thinking about what to do with the girl. The next morning, he goes to talk to Alessia and asks if she has anywhere to stay. She remembers the psychiatric hospital where her father used to take her, and Enzo convinces her to stay there while he stays to find out Sergio's whereabouts. The girl accepts and the two prepare to go to the hospital, but first, Enzo goes to check if his finger has regenerated. Unfortunately for him, his finger has not returned to normal, indicating that his body can only heal minor injuries, but not amputations. Even so, Enzo takes Alessia to the hospital, unaware that Gypsy is looking for information about the masked man who attacked him. During his investigation, he finds a viral video on the internet showing the same masked man robbing an ATM. The gangster orders his henchmen to find him, but first, they need to solve the problem of Sergio's shipment. After he is eliminated, the shipment is lost, and Gypsy needs to find it quickly, because the buyer, a crime boss named Nunzia, will come after him. The group then returns to base, but there they find Nunzia's men waiting for them. Seeing that the situation is worse than he imagined, the Gypsy warns that the cargo has been lost, but will send the money back on time. The truth is that the gangster does not have all that money and needs to think of a way to collect it as soon as possible. He then plans an armored car robbery and orders his henchmen to prepare weapons and equipment. Back at Enzo's apartment, he ends up leaving Alessia at the hospital and turns on the TV, but the screen shows the anime Geek Robot from the DVD that the girl put in the player. Enzo ends up liking the animation and decides to upgrade his equipment to watch the episodes in better quality. So, the next morning, he goes to a highway, where he sees an armored car passing by. At that very moment, Gypsy and his men were at the scene, but Enzo gets ahead of them and stops the vehicle by throwing stones at the windshield. Soon after, he breaks into the armored car and takes a bag of money, but when he sees the man committing the robbery, Gypsy becomes enraged and shoots at the masked man. However, he misses his target and Enzo flees, carrying a bag full of money. With this money, the thief buys a movie projector for his home, as well as the complete collection of Geek Robot episodes. However, just as he is about to start watching the episodes, he hears someone knocking on the door and sees a police car from the window. Enzo opens the door and the police inform him that his sick wife was walking alone on the street. Enzo doesn't know what they're talking about, but soon Alessia appears and the officers tell the man to take better care of his wife. The man follows their advice and tells Alessia to come in, with the girl showing him a Geek Robot mask she made as a gift for Enzo. However, he warns her that he is not a hero and tells Alessia to pack her things, as he is going to take her back to the psychiatric hospital. However, the girl refuses and, upon seeing Geek Robot's complete collection, she asks to stay one more night and watch the episodes with him. Even against his will, he accepts and the two watch the anime, until Alessia begins to get closer. Enzo reciprocates the gesture, but the girl has an emotional breakdown and starts screaming, asking him not to hurt her. This confuses Enzo, but he soon realizes that the girl has suffered abuse and hugs her, promising not to hurt her. Another day passes and Enzo decides to take Alessia to the amusement park to help her take her mind off things. The place is closed, but he tells Alessia to get on the Ferris wheel and, with his strength, he manages to move the ride. This experience makes the girl very happy and, after the park, the two go to the mall, where Alessia is enchanted by a dress. She says she wants to dress like a princess, and without hesitation, Enzo buys it for her as a gift. Gradually, the two grow closer, and the girl asks Enzo again if he knows where her father is. He insists that he doesn't know the answer, but the young woman doesn't believe him and walks away from him. When they arrive at the parking lot, Enzo finally tells her the truth, that Sergio was eliminated while on the job and will never come home again. Alessia is hurt that he lied to her all this time and accuses Enzo of not caring about anyone but himself. She then leaves alone and, minutes later, gets on a bus, but as she is leaving, a superhuman force prevents the vehicle from moving. Looking back, the The passengers see Enzo holding the bus and soon discover that he is the masked man who robbed the ATM. Everyone starts recording the guy on their cell phones, but Enzo doesn't care and goes to Alessia, apologizing to her. He even says that he cares deeply for her and is willing to be the hero she loves so much. Alessia accepts his apology, and Enzo carries her off the bus, promising to take her to where her father is. Shortly after, the two arrive at the morgue and find Sergio's body, with Alessia saying goodbye to her father one last time. After that, the two decide to return to the apartment, but Enzo knows that his identity has been revealed and they need to flee far away from there. Meanwhile, Gypsy returns to his base, feeling humiliated for having been defeated by the masked man once again. To make matters worse, Vincenzo says he is tired of his brother's plans and intends to take over the gang from now on. Gypsy is offended by these words, but pretends to accept the decision, and Vincenzo says he will gather the group for another robbery. However, as soon as he leaves the place, the gangster orders his men to release the guard dogs, who set out to attack Vincenzo. After eliminating his own brother, the gangster still needs to get the money to pay Nunzia and goes to ask his contact, Marcelone, for a loan. Minutes later, he gets the money from her, but suddenly, Nunzia and her men appear by surprise and attack the two. They knock Marcelone to the ground and demand to know where the payment is, with Gypsy saying that the money is in the bag. Even so, Nunzia decides to teach him a lesson in respect and gags the gangster on the ground, as well as ordering her men to cover him with gasoline. Finally, she lights the lighter, but just as she is about to set him on fire, Nunzia and her gang start laughing, saying it was all a joke. This enrages Gypsy and, to his surprise, Marcelone gets up and starts shooting at Nunzia and her group. The gangster seizes the opportunity and also shoots at them, eliminating the henchman and hitting Nunzia in the leg. Even so, she manages to escape and Gypsy heads back to base, but Nunzia arrives first and eliminates his guard dogs and the entire gang. Only Tazzy survived the attack, and Gypsy calls him to gather the weapons, as they will go after Nunzia. Before leaving, the two see a news report on TV showing the true identity of the masked thief, whom Gypsy soon recognizes as Alicia's neighbor. Meanwhile, Enzo and the girl grab their things and flee on a motorcycle, until they stop at a hotel. Inside, the man begins to tell Alessia about his past, when he got involved in the world of crime as a teenager. Together with his friends, he committed petty thefts, but all his colleagues perished, leaving only Enzo. In the end, he continued his life of crime, but since gaining his powers and meeting Alessia, he wants to abandon everything and seek something better. The girl is moved by his story and even invites him to sleep together, as if they were a couple. Enzo accepts, but soon after, Gypsy breaks into the room and knocks the guy down with a shot of tranquilizer darts. Shortly after, Enzo wakes up tied to a bed, and next to him is Gypsy, who wants to know how he got his special powers. Enzo refuses to say, but the gangster shows him his cell phone, with a live broadcast of Alessia being held hostage by Tazzy. He warns that if he doesn't tell the truth, the girl will be tortured, so Enzo decides to tell everything. After being untied, he takes Gypsy to the Tiber River and reveals that he came into contact with a strange substance inside some barrels. The Gypsy then orders him to go get the barrels, while inside the van, Alessia asks Tazzy to let her go to the bathroom. The man says he can't do that, but in a moment of carelessness, the girl takes a knitting needle from her dress and stabs the man in the neck. Tazzy tries to resist, but the needle hits one of his arteries and he falls to the ground, already lifeless. Outside the van, Enzo goes to get the barrels and the Gypsy calls for Tazzy, but he doesn't answer and, to make matters worse, a car starts approaching the port. Nunzia and more henchmen emerge from inside, heading toward the Gypsy armed with machine guns. The gangster despairs and pulls his gun on the group, while Alessia gets out of the van and runs toward Enzo. The Gypsy seizes the chance and grabs the girl, but Nunzia orders her men to finish off the gangster, who is shot dozens of times. Finally, the crime boss takes a flamethrower and sets the Gypsy on fire, who, in desperation, jumps into the Tiber River. After the shooting, Enzo runs towards Alessia, but unfortunately, she has also been hit by the shots. In her final moments, the girl asks Enzo to use his powers to save the world, and he promises to do so, giving her a farewell kiss. Another day passes and, from inside the Tiber River, the Gypsy appears, still alive and with his body charred. Thanks to the radioactive material, he also acquires powers and, after covering his head with a wig, the villain heads to Nunzia's hideout in search of revenge. Seeing that the Gypsy is still alive, Nunzia orders her men to eliminate the intruder. However, the gangster is not intimidated and leaves his cell phone recording everything while he eliminates the henchman without any difficulty. After the confrontation, he pulls Nunzia into a dance, but using his strength, he squeezes her hard, breaking her spine. Now that his revenge is complete, the gypsy uploads the video to the internet, hoping to achieve the same fame as the masked thief. After completing the upload, the gypsy sees a locked door in the room and, upon opening it, finds Nunzia's arsenal. With this firepower, he can finally begin his plan for domination and become the biggest crime boss in Rome. Elsewhere in the city, Enzo walks aimlessly down the road, mourning Alicia's perishment. Suddenly, a police car passes him and the officers immediately recognize the masked thief and decide to arrest him. However, a woman and her daughter were driving on the road and, in a moment of distraction, she crashes into the police car, causing her car to roll over. The police quickly manage to save the woman, but her daughter is trapped and the car starts to catch fire. Following Alicia's requests, Enzo sets out to save her and, with his strength, he rips off the trunk and pulls the girl out, seconds before the vehicle explodes. The mother is relieved to see her daughter safe and, in gratitude, she hugs Enzo, who, for the first time, was the hero Alessia so desired. In light of this heroic act, everyone around congratulates Enzo, and even the police let him go. However, as he drives down the road, Enzo sees a news report on TV showing the video that the gypsy posted on the internet. Enzo soon realizes that the guy is not only alive, but has also acquired his powers thanks to the Tiber River. As if that weren't bad enough, the villain says he has planned something even more shocking for all of Rome and claims to have planted a bomb in the soccer stadium. To stop him, Enzo borrows a motorcycle from a civilian and speeds off to the stadium. Once there, he finds Gypsy and advances toward him, but the gangster manages to resist his strength. The two then begin a fierce fight, exchanging punches, but both are evenly matched in strength and agility. In the midst of the confrontation, the gypsy ends up dropping an old cell phone, which serves as a detonator for the bomb in the stadium. Without wasting any time, the villain grabs the cell phone and runs away, with Enzo following him to the stands. As soon as he finds him, the two face off again and Enzo finally manages to take the cell phone and throws it on the ground. Even so, the villain still resists and pushes Enzo away, knocking him down among the spectators. After that, Gypsy jumps from the stands and is surrounded by several police officers, but manages to get rid of them easily. He then runs towards an ambulance and manually activates the bomb mechanism, which will explode in 5 minutes. Enzo manages to find him, but the bomb has already been activated, so he drives the ambulance away from there. However, Enzo is stopped by a police roadblock, with officers ordering him to get out of the car. In the midst of this standoff, Enzo gets out of the ambulance, pushes it toward the roadblock, and flees from the police, with the bomb in his hands. With seconds to go before the explosion, Enzo reaches a bridge and tries to throw it into the river. However, the gypsy reappears and knocks him to the ground, causing the bomb to fall in the middle of the bridge. The villain beats Enzo and runs towards the bomb, reducing the time until the explosion to 15 seconds. Soon, dozens of people will be eliminated, but with his last ounce of strength, Enzo runs towards Gypsy and jumps, along with him, towards the sea. As soon as the countdown ends, the bomb explodes, destroying the gypsy's body, while Enzo's fate remains a mystery. Days later, people still talk about the hero who saved the city and even name a square after the masked man. However, it is soon revealed that Enzo survived and, from the top of Rome's buildings, he puts on the mask that Alessia gave him as a gift. Then, assuming the identity of Jeeg Robot, Enzo jumps towards the city, ready to fight crime like a true superhero. So what did you think of this movie? Leave it in the comments below. And if you liked the video, like and subscribe for more movie recaps. See you next time.